number one source, Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 309 of Sports Card Nation. So, did you know that Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, had a female teammate during their Negro League days? I did, but I didn't know all the details as I do now. And if you don't, you might like this episode. We're going to learn about Toni Stone. Toni Stone was the first female professional ball player and played with the guys. That wasn't in the All-American Girls Baseball League, but played in the Negro League with the Indianapolis Clowns, and was a teammate of Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, and held her own. This was not a publicity stunt or any kind of just to gain attention, and she held her own and probably should have played more than she did. And we're going to learn a little bit about that and more. Today's guest, Karen Swanson, has written a book, Swinging into History, the Toni Stone story. We're going to learn about how she got to writing this book, how she learned about Toni Stone, and who Toni Stone was. So I think you're going to, it's not so much sports cards, but, vintage era baseball. And so I think you'll enjoy this episode. So let's take a quick 30-second commercial break, and then we'll be on with author Karen Swanson.
Hi, I'm Isaac Albert, a longtime card collector and the co-founder of the Penny Sleever. My wife and I started the Penny Sleever with a simple premise in mind: to offer collectors top quality supplies at fair prices. We offer a full range of hobby supplies, and we'll get them to you fast. Whether you're looking for a 260-point magnetic for that oversized patch card, or a slew of semi-rigids for your next PSA submission, the Penny Sleever has you covered. Shop now at thepennysleever.com and use the promo code SCNation to get 10% off your first order. That's SCNation for 10% off at thepennysleever.com. The Penny Sleever. Top quality supplies, fair prices.
All right, happy to have my next guest on the Sports Card Shop guest line. She's the author of a new book, Swinging into History. Have it right here. I'll put it on camera. It's a great book about someone. I have a feeling many may not have heard the story or know of the subject of that book, and that's what we're going to talk about today with the author, Karen Swanson. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
Great book. It is a children's book, which didn't stop me from reading it because I'm just a big kid at heart anyway. And, I'm a teaching assistant that works in the special education department, Karen. So, we have these obviously in hand. I'm going to incorporate that in some fashion into our curriculum during the year.
Great.
But even being a children's book, it really hit home and told the story of the subject, which is Toni Stone, the first professional women's ball player. And I was telling you before we recorded, I've heard a little bit about her, but I didn't know all the details that you did a great job sort of filling in. And I obviously learned more about her and then even, did more research and tried to learn even more about her. This isn't you're an author already, but this was not necessarily your forte, but you were inspired walking by a play that she was the subject of, which led to you writing this book. I'll let you tell kind of the story of where the light bulb sort of went on, and now we have this great book.
Great. I'm happy to do that. And it's a great book for use in school. So especially because there's a timeline at the back. So fifth graders are really great with this for writing book reports. How I got inspired to write this book was that I was literally walking down the street and saw a billboard for this new play in 2018 called Toni Stone. And I am an athlete. I played softball growing up, but I always was a little more interested in baseball. My son played baseball all through high school and was recruited for college. So I know a lot about baseball. I enjoy the game. And I was like, wait a minute, how is it possible that a woman played professional baseball? And I did not know this. I just couldn't believe it. So I bought tickets for myself and my husband and two friends that I'm like, y'all are coming to this and we're going to go see this play. And I probably annoyed everybody because I used my watch light to take notes because I was like, kids need to know about this. And that's kind of how that started. From there, there's a lot of research that goes into writing nonfiction. So yeah, it's a picture book biography for kids, nonfiction, but it takes quite a lot of effort to make sure that everything in it is completely accurate. And I relied pretty heavily on a book by a woman named Martha Ackman called Curveball, which is really the definitive biography of Toni. She is a professor who spent, I don't even know how many years, getting Toni's story down, like for adults. It's several hundred pages long. But then also did a lot of other primary research. So that is how I was interested. And for me personally, it hit home because Toni's story is one of just absolute determination. No one wanted her to play baseball. No one. Her parents didn't want her to play. The kids, even though she was by far the best athlete, and was written up in St. Paul's, best athlete as a kid. The boys didn't want to be bested by a girl. Her parents didn't want her doing something that in the 1930s that's so unfeminine. And then when she made it, no one wanted her to play there either. So it's a story about making your own dreams come true and determination and resilience and sexual discrimination and as well as racial discrimination. And that really spoke a lot to me.
Yeah, and you make a great point in the book, and I think it's you mentioned it there too just now, right? Her own parents, for their own reasons, right, didn't really support her dream to play baseball. They probably, thought it was kind of a pipe dream in their minds, and maybe her energy could be better spent in a different direction. But like you said, it's a great book, and it's a great story of determination, right? To sort of like, I don't want to say go against your parents, but they really weren't thrilled by that fact. She even, purchased her own baseball glove.
Yeah.
And her parents, like you just mentioned, weren't the only ones that were resistant to her playing it. The male ego, it can be a fickle thing, and males in the sport did not accept her. The book illustrates some of the things she ran up against and the difficulties. And it would have been easy probably for her at any time to like throw her glove in the closet, so to speak, and that be it. And we never know about, a Toni Stone. But she persevered. She played for a while. She played, in the league, baseball league with the males. It wasn't the women's version like we had with the major leagues and the Tom Hanks movie, A League of Their Own, which is a great league in itself. But it was she was playing with male contemporaries, including the likes of Satchel Paige and Hank Aaron and Willie Mays. I'm sure those guys need no introduction. I guess one of the questions I have is, I had heard some rumblings about her, but I didn't know the whole story. Why, and I hope your book leads to it, and the other book you mentioned that you that's more, if you will, adult oriented. Why do you think we don't know more about this? Is it society just kind of continuing that societal line, which is not a good one, where allegedly women can't do this? Or why do you think that her story, we hear a lot of inspirational stories, along racial lines and social issues, Rosa Parks, Jackie Robinson, the list goes on and on. Why isn't this story a bigger one with Toni Stone? In your opinion, what do you think? Why is that the case?
It's a great question. Actually, no one's ever asked me that question, and I'm not sure I know exactly. But partly it's probably because for years and years and years, the Negro Leagues were not considered by Cooperstown to be major leagues, even though at the time it was the major league for Black players, right? So there's some of that. So there's just not enough information. There's also it is still wildly discouraged for girls to play baseball. The fact that Monet Davis pitched in the World Series, Little League World Series, and then gave up baseball. Baseball in college, they don't want girls still, even after Title IX. So I don't know that there's anybody that's was saying, okay, she's leading the charge for making changes in baseball. So I don't know. And as you said earlier, the male ego, or people just, there's very little written about Toni because of the time that it was also. So if Martha Ackman hadn't written that book, I would never have been able to write this book. So I think, if you think about, the Williams sisters, I'm a huge tennis fan. If you think about the Williams sisters, a lot more about that story because it unfolded in a way where the media was. And that's not the case here. She was written up many times in the Chicago Defender, but, white Americans largely aren't going to know what that is. So there are probably several things. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's my take on it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think what you said rings true, right? But what I'm hoping, again, you got the inspiration to write this book, walking by that billboard. You think maybe now with society being better, there's always room for improvement. There's ways to go. More social media. You think that the general public might start to hear more about Toni Stone? Might we see a movie even? It's funny, Karen, I don't know how you feel about this. Sometimes we see them redo movies, just kind of a retake. It's almost like they're running out of ideas in Hollywood or in entertainment, right? To me, This would be a great movie. I'm not saying it's going to be a blockbuster. I think it could be an important movie that people would really enjoy and learn more about the history and fabric of America, of sports, of society. You think that maybe that is something that we'll see, maybe hopefully come of this?
Gosh, I don't know, but I would love to. There is a TV series. The name is escaping me at the moment, but I'll come up with it. That was basically, it's built on the fact that, A League of Their Own and the AAGPBL at the time was a baseball league for women, but it was only for white women. And what this TV series did a great job of, actually, is they had one Black character. It's fictional, but they were based, what I've read about it is that they based the main character, whose name is Max, on Toni Stone, and then the two women who played on the Clowns after her, Mamie, I'm spacing on names today, sorry, Peanut and Mamie. I'll come up with it.
Yeah, and that'll give people to do some research too on their own there as well, which is something I did even after reading the book. I wanted to learn more, and I almost felt Karen, I almost felt a little guilty that I didn't know more, even though it wasn't intentional. I felt like I should have known more about this than I happened to, and that's why I'm hoping.
There would be no way.
Yeah.
Time for a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.
Sports Card Nation has returned.
You mentioned about the girls' professional league. She did apply. I found this out actually today. She applied to play in that, and they didn't even refuse her. They pretty much just didn't even respond to her. They ignored her as if they weren't even receiving the message when they probably were doing it. So they didn't even dignify her with even a no or a response in some form of fashion, which, in my opinion, I feel, it's like at least say no or give a reason why or whatever the case may be, but to completely ignore. And that's the kind of the obstacles she ran up with at different points with different things. And, someone will say, well, John, maybe this was, we've seen stuff in professional sports, right? Eddie Goodell, the short person who they had play one game, publicity stunts, if you will. This wasn't a publicity stunt. She held her own and could play. She batted .243. There's some male players that would love that batting average, comparatively speaking, to maybe what they actually batted. So she held her own. She was pretty good on the defensive side in the infield as well. And so she played. It wasn't like she played in one game and that was the story. She played. And so this is not one of those type of stories where it's a publicity stunt, it's cute, and then that's the end of it, right? She had a passion for it. This was not her just I just want to get my name out there. She really didn't even care so much about that as she just loved the game of baseball and wanted to play and didn't want special treatment. You know what I mean? She was playing in the Negro Leagues, like I said, with the Hank Aaron's and Satchel Pages and that sort of thing. So go ahead.
And to that end, there are there are three favorite quotes that I have in this book, but one of them is this amazing spread. The artist Laura Freeman, who's spectacular, who illustrated this whole book. This really is a very good likeness of Toni in her later days. The quote here is, "Worked hard for my dream, gave up a lot, but my dream came true, playing baseball with the big boys." She said that to her niece. And I got that quote from interviewing her niece. And on the back of the book, it was very important to me that Toni's family supported this. And that, her niece, Maria Barlow, said, "Everything in this book is true to the fact. It beautifully captures my Aunt Toni's fighting spirit and fierce determination." And so, she just wanted to play at the level that her skill would allow. And that was the same as the rest of these guys. And it is interesting because you're right. She wanted no special treatment. And, no pitchers are going to not pitch. No pitcher's going to want her to get a hit off him. So, she played for real and had real stats and, played at second and was spiked high and, went for it. But the way that she was able to wrangle finally a minor league contract so that she could get seen in front of pros was by saying, hey, people will come to watch a woman play. And that was a very double-edged sword because it got her where she needed to get to, but it also then, meant that she would play for a couple of innings and then get pulled. And then that was a source of frustration for her that, she just assumed that if she made it, that her results would carry and she would get the playing time that she deserved. And that was just really not the case. So, she was a real player. She played again, Hank Aaron called her a very good baseball player. Ernie Banks said she was so talented. She played with and against all of them. And, that's how she got there.
Yeah, and like I said, anyone that knows baseball, 243, 250, that's one out of every four at bats you're getting a hit. And like any pitcher, I'm a former baseball player and a former pitcher, right? I don't want anybody getting a hit off me if I can prevent it, right? I'm sure there was a little more competitive juices flowing. Again, male ego, male pride, however you want to word it, right? I don't want a female to get a hit off me. And so she probably got the best stuff, and they really kind of probably maybe even bear down on the mound even more so to prevent that from happening. Yet she still batted 240s, 250s. And there's a lot of baseball players that would like that average that don't get that. So, and reading the book and you point out how, it was frustrating that she'd get a few innings each game and sometimes not even that, right? Again, her perseverance, right? Someone else would have been like, I'm quitting, or this is, and she enjoyed the game enough to even take it in that form, even though that's not, I'm sure it was frustrating for her. She was still part of the game, part of the team enough not to just pack it in, throw a glove, go home, throw a glove on the floor and be done with it. Where I think, maybe 80% of other people would do that. And then no one would really blame them with that sort of treatment, right? And yet she was dedicated, perseverance, right? Grit, words I like to use. And she definitely had that. And she had, not only was she a woman trying to break that baseball barrier, but an African-American woman. So it was double difficult, if you will. The obstacles were twice as much as many others were. And the other thing I took from the story too is here we have the Negro Leagues where they're not allowed to play in the major league at this point. And so they're getting that sort of, bias, if you will. And then the league itself is doing that to Toni, like, you can't play with us.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
sort of like the food chain, it just like two wrongs in the sense there, right? And that wasn't lost on me either. And did she, in doing the research, did she have, other than herself, did she have any kind of specific player that maybe sort of tried to help or not necessarily?
It's interesting. She was very much a student of the game, and so she would talk on the bus and watching people, like, she wanted to learn how to hit curveballs better. And I don't remember which player she got the advice from, but whoever it was said you need to lean into a curveball. And she would watch and study. So any of the guys that were open to that, she was friendly with. So Willie Mays, when he was 18 and at, Pelican Park and being scouted, was somebody that she sat next to and like talked with him about the game, and they talked about who their heroes were and who she studied. I mean, she went to every game in St. Louis that she could go to growing up and, watching all these players. So I'm not sure that there's someone in specific other than, when she finally did get a chance to go to this baseball school, because she essentially talked her way into it. Gabby Street, who was a major league catcher, essentially wanted nothing to do with her. And she just went round and round. She just would not leave. And what's not actually in the book is she had a broken arm while she was doing this. And she just was like, this is too big of an opportunity for me to pass up. So she talked her way in to getting a chance to play, and he invited her to her baseball school. And at the end, for her 15th birthday, gave her cleats because she could not go forward in the game wearing just, tennis shoes. And all the rest of the white boys that were there had like uniforms and cleats and whatever. And all she had was her 25-cent Goodwill mitt. And, he gave her cleats, and that helped her believe she could start barnstorming and find her way into the pros.
Yeah, and again, an incredible story, and she made it to the league release. Didn't really, we could talk about, which we already have, sort of the treatment there and not playing full games and that sort of thing. But she made it that far. So, did you know about Toni Stone? I did, like I said, a little bit, but after reading this book, I learned a lot more. We are not done talking with Karen Swanson. We are for this episode, but stay tuned next week with the conclusion, and we'll learn more about Toni Stone and her life after her career was over as well. Plus a little more stuff during the career and the process of writing this book about her. So thanks to Karen for coming on, and again, we'll be back next week with some more from Karen Swanson about her book and the first professional female baseball player, Toni Stone.
Time for our Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week.
Hello, rookie card collectors. Victor, the rookie card specialist on YouTube, reminding you that the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
That's a wrap for this week. Huge thanks to you, the listeners out there, because without you, there is no us. If you like the show, we truly appreciate positive reviews. Big ups to our great guests who drive the show and our awesome sponsors who make it all possible. Sports Card Nation will be back next week, but don't forget to catch either Hobby Quick Hits or Card Mentions coming up on Monday. I'll leave you with this. How do we change the world? One random act of kindness at a time. Remember, the hobby is the people.
Hobby Hotline is the hobby's only live interactive call-in show. Join some of your favorite hobby personalities every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, to discuss the hottest hobby topics. If you miss us live, catch us after the fact on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on socials at Hobby Hotline.
Hobby News Daily is your homepage of the hobby, providing original writing, exclusive gem rate data, a daily morning minute podcast, and some of the best content creators in the hobby. Remember, hobbynewsdaily.com and at Hobby News Daily on social. Happy collecting!